The camera flashes stopped, and 300 people on the red carpet watched as River Phoenix and Johnny Depp prepared to respond to the critic who had just called them pretty boys. Los Angeles, March 1992. The Beverly Hills Hotel's Crystal Ballroom hosts the annual Critics' Choice Awards, where entertainment journalists gather to celebrate what they consider the year's finest achievements in cinema. Outside, Sunset Boulevard transforms into a river of limousines discharging Hollywood's most recognizable faces onto a red carpet that stretches like crimson silk from the street to the hotel's grand entrance. Tonight represents validation for serious filmmaking. Unlike the Golden Globes or Academy Awards, which balance commercial appeal with artistic merit, the Critics' Choice Awards focus exclusively on what professional film reviewers consider worthy of recognition. Getting nominated means your work has been deemed intellectually and artistically significant by people who spend their lives analyzing cinema. River Phoenix, 21 years old, steps from his limousine wearing a midnight blue tuxedo that complements his natural coloring without overwhelming his youthful features. His blonde hair is styled, but maintains the slightly rebellious texture that refuses to be completely tamed by expensive hair products. Tonight, he's nominated for Best Actor for his devastating performance in My Own Private Idaho, a recognition that validates his transition from teen roles to complex adult characters. Beside him, Johnny Depp emerges wearing a classic black tuxedo with subtle personal touches, vintage cufflinks, a slightly loosened bow tie that suggests comfort with formal wear without complete submission to its constraints. At 28, Johnny carries himself with the confidence of someone who has successfully navigated the treacherous waters between television success and film credibility. "Ready to face the intellectual firing squad?" Johnny asks with a slight smile as they begin their walk toward the hotel entrance. "As ready as anyone can be for having their artistic choices dissected by people who've never actually made a film," River replies, adjusting his bow tie with nervous energy disguised as casual grooming. The red carpet stretches ahead like a gauntlet of judgment. Unlike movie premieres where entertainment reporters focus on glamour and personality, tonight's interviews will probe deeper. Questions about artistic choices, creative processes, the relationship between commercial appeal and artistic integrity. These are critics who pride themselves on seeing through surface charm to evaluate genuine talent. The first interviews proceed smoothly. River discusses his collaboration with Gus Van Sant, the research he conducted to understand his character's psychological landscape, the challenge of portraying vulnerability without falling into sentimentality. His responses demonstrate the thoughtfulness that critics respect, evidence that he approaches his craft intellectually rather than relying solely on natural charisma. Johnny handles questions about his transition from television to film, his choice to work with directors like Tim Burton who prioritize creative vision over commercial formulas. Both actors project the seriousness of purpose that distinguishes artists from entertainers in the minds of professional film critics. Midway down the red carpet, they encounter the main interview area where major entertainment publications conduct longer segments. This is where careers can be enhanced or damaged with a single thoughtless comment, where actors must balance authenticity with strategic self-presentation. Margaret Davis from the Los Angeles Film Quarterly approaches first, her crew positioning cameras for optimal lighting. She represents the intellectual wing of film journalism, critics who view themselves as cultural gatekeepers, determining which artists deserve serious consideration and which should be dismissed as mere popular entertainment. River, Johnny, congratulations on your nominations. How does it feel to be recognized by serious film critics after years of being dismissed as teen heartthrobs and television actors? The question contains implicit condescension, the assumption that their previous work was somehow less worthy, that critical recognition represents elevation from a lower artistic category. But both actors handle it gracefully, discussing their evolution as performers while respecting the work that brought them to this point. "I think every role teaches you something,"
River responds thoughtfully. The challenge isn't to abandon what you've done before, but to build on it, to find ways to grow while staying connected to what made you want to act in the first place. The conversation continues professionally until Richard Sterling from Cinema Critique pushes through the crowd of reporters. Sterling represents the most pretentious wing of film criticism, writers who measure their intellectual superiority by their ability to dismiss popular culture, who view accessibility as evidence of artistic compromise. Sterling doesn't wait for invitation or introduction. His voice cuts through the ambient noise with practiced authority designed to command attention and establish dominance. River, Johnny, let's address the elephant in the room here. You're both nominated tonight, but let's be honest, you're still just pretty boys who happened to stumble into some decent material. When are you going to admit that your success has more to do with your looks than your actual acting ability? The question lands like a slap across the face. The surrounding reporters go quiet, sensing blood in the water. Camera flashes intensify, capturing every micro-expression as both actors process not just the words, but the calculated malice behind them. This is the moment tabloid journalism disguised as serious criticism lives for, the potential meltdown, the angry response that can be taken out of context and used to generate sensational headlines. Sterling continues, emboldened by their momentary silence. Come on, guys. My Own Private Idaho, Edward Scissorhands, these are just more sophisticated teen movies with art house pretensions. You're still trading on your appearance, still appealing to audiences who care more about your faces than your performances. When are you going to acknowledge that this whole serious actor transformation is just smart career management?
6 seconds pass. The red carpet feels frozen in time. 300 people, critics, industry professionals, fellow actors, hold their breath, cameras poised to capture whatever happens next. This is the kind of moment that defines how young stars handle public humiliation, whether they crack under intellectual pressure or rise above attempted character assassination. Then River Phoenix takes a small step forward, his movements so controlled that only the front row of photographers notices. Johnny mirrors him immediately, both actors presenting a united front without planning or discussion, their friendship evident in synchronized body language that speaks to months of mutual support through Hollywood's challenges. River's voice, when he speaks, is quiet enough that reporters strain to hear, but every word carries absolute conviction, backed by genuine intellectual confidence. Mr. Sterling, I think you're confusing commercial appeal with artistic limitation, and you're making the assumption that connecting with audiences somehow disqualifies work from being meaningful or challenging. Sterling opens his mouth to interrupt, but River continues, his tone remaining respectful but gaining strength with each word. My Own Private Idaho deals with themes of identity, sexuality, family, the search for belonging in a society that offers no clear paths to connection. These aren't simple topics that require simple performances just because some of the audience happens to be young. Edward Scissorhands explores isolation, acceptance, the fear of being different, again, not lightweight themes requiring superficial treatment. Johnny steps forward slightly, supporting River's argument with his own perspective. The idea that popularity equals artistic compromise is something older critics tell themselves to feel intellectually superior, as if struggle and obscurity automatically equal authenticity. We're not apologizing for being successful, and we're not apologizing for wanting to grow as artists while maintaining connection with audiences who supported us. River looks directly at Sterling, his green eyes holding steady contact without hostility or defensiveness. You call us pretty boys like it's a disqualification from serious consideration, but we connected with audiences initially because we treated their emotions seriously, because we didn't condescend to them or assume their feelings were less valid than adult feelings. The gathering crowd of critics and industry professionals leans in, realizing they're witnessing something more significant than typical red carpet banter. This is intellectual combat conducted with precision and dignity. Young artists defending not just themselves, but an entire generation's right to artistic evolution. Johnny continues the argument seamlessly. What we're rejecting is the false choice between popularity and artistry, the assumption that you can either be taken seriously or be liked, but never both. That's a limitation created by critics who need categories to understand artistic achievement, rather than evaluating actual work.
River's confidence grows with each exchange. Judge the performances, not the marketing campaigns. Judge what we bring to these characters, not what magazines write about our personal lives. Judge the work itself, not your preconceptions about who's allowed to create serious art. Sterling, clearly unprepared for this level of articulated defense, tries to regain control of the narrative. But surely you understand why serious critics might be skeptical of actors whose careers were built on appealing to teenage audiences. We understand the skepticism, Johnny interrupts, his voice carrying an edge of steel beneath the politeness. We just don't accept it as valid criticism. Skepticism based on actual artistic evaluation is valuable. Skepticism based on demographic prejudice is just intellectual snobbery disguised as professional judgment. River adds, real artistic credibility doesn't require ugliness or commercial failure to prove itself. Real credibility comes from honesty in the work, commitment to the characters, and the courage to risk everything for the truth of the story. The silence that follows is electric with possibility rather than tension. 300 critics and industry professionals recognize they've just witnessed something rare in Hollywood. Young stars who can articulate sophisticated responses to intellectual challenges, who refuse to be diminished by academic pretension disguised as serious criticism. Margaret Davis breaks the moment first, her professional instincts recognizing great television when she sees it. That's actually a very sophisticated understanding of the relationship between popular appeal and artistic integrity. Other critics nod, some looking embarrassed by Sterling's aggressive approach. The mood on the red carpet shifts from predatory to respectful, recognizing that these young men possess the intellectual depth their critics claim they lack. Sterling, realizing he's lost control of what should have been an easy intellectual demolition, tries one final attack. Easy words on a red carpet, but can you actually deliver performances that justify all this high-minded talk about artistic evolution? River and Johnny exchange a glance filled with quiet confidence, born of knowing their work speaks for itself. Watch the films, River says simply. Judge for yourself. But judge the actual performances, not your assumptions about who created them. Johnny adds with a slight smile, and maybe question why you need us to fail to validate your critical perspective. The rest of the red carpet experience transforms completely. Instead of defending themselves against accusations of superficiality, River and Johnny find themselves in substantive conversations about their craft, their artistic influences, their understanding of character development and storytelling. Critics ask thoughtful questions about their evolution as performers, their choice of directors and material. Inside the ceremony, both lose their categories to older, more established actors, but their red carpet exchange becomes the most discussed moment of the evening. Entertainment Weekly runs a full transcript. The Los Angeles Times publishes an editorial about ageism in film criticism. Variety features a piece about the new generation of actors who combine popular appeal with intellectual credibility.
Weeks later, the exchange influences casting decisions across Hollywood. Directors reference the interview as evidence that River and Johnny possess the intelligence and articulation that makes actors valuable beyond their on-screen work, that they can handle complex material and sophisticated promotional campaigns. Sterling's editor kills the hatchet piece he'd planned to write, recognizing that his questions made him look intellectually shallow rather than making River and Johnny look artistically naive. The attempted intellectual assassination becomes career validation instead. Years later, after River's death, Johnny remembers the red carpet confrontation as pivotal in both their careers, not because of the awards or recognition, but because of the stand they took together against the assumption that youth and success automatically equal intellectual superficiality. "River taught me something that night," Johnny tells interviewers decades later, "that you don't prove your artistic depth by accepting other people's shallow judgments about your capabilities. You prove it by doing work that speaks for itself and refusing to be limited by critics who mistake cynicism for sophistication." The red carpet exchange becomes part of both actors' legends, studied in film schools as an example of how to handle hostile media while maintaining dignity and intellectual credibility. Critics still reference the interview when discussing the relationship between popular appeal and artistic legitimacy. 6 seconds on a red carpet in 1992. One moment when two young actors refused to accept limitations based on critical prejudice rather than artistic evaluation. One choice that showed the entire entertainment industry what real intellectual maturity looks like when it refuses to apologize for success or accept false choices between popularity and artistic integrity. The night that changed how Hollywood critics evaluate young talent, proving that serious artistic discussion can emerge from unexpected sources when artists possess both the intelligence to engage and the courage to defend their right to creative evolution.